Good afternoon and welcome to my capstone project presentation, Raising Voices Community of Practice. My name is Jicinta, Alexis, and I am a Master of Education student at St. George's University, Grenada. My research project, titled Raising Voices of Students with Visual and Auditory Impairments, Raising Issues of Inclusive Online Tertiary Education, was the context for my capstone. My study was an examination of the lived experiences of students with visual and auditory impairments, which were captured through narratives that reflected their feelings, opinions, and perspectives of online tertiary education at UWI Open Campus. My capstone project is therefore to create a network of people who share a common interest in addressing the learning needs of students with visual and auditory impairments in the online tertiary education environment. This is the foundation for the creation of the Raising Voices community of practice. My teaching experience spans from being a tutor to an e-tutor and now a course coordinator at UWI Open Campus. As an educator in a student-focused online learning tertiary environment, I have adult learners from various Caribbean countries with diverse learning needs. During the course of my teaching journey, I was regularly presented with instances of registered students with either visual impairments or auditory impairments taking my course and informing me of their special learning needs. These occurrences resulted in my adoption of an inquiry stance where I wondered whether my peer educators were faced with similar challenges and what were their approaches for addressing them. My study utilized a qualitative methodology using a phenomenological approach. The rationale for using the approach was to understand the event from the participants' point of view. Participants were given options of sharing their lived realities in either written, narrative, or audio narrative format. The narrative protocol with reflective prompts to stimulate their voices was shared with participants. A snowballing technique was used to recruit participants as the original recruitment was slow. Based on the narrative shared by respondents, one of the recommended strategies is to sensitize tutors, instructors, and leaders to meet the learning needs of students with visual and auditory impairments in the online tertiary environment. Hence my creation of the virtual community of practice known as Raising Voices. My findings were analyzed from 3 respondents' narratives. Theme 1: Paucity of collective voices. The findings revealed that students with visual and auditory impairments face discrimination from peers and apathy from tutors in the online learning environment. Assistive devices were not supporting the learning needs of students with visual and auditory impairments, as the devices had limited compatibility with Blackboard Collaborate, which resulted in limited access to synchronous sessions in real time. Students with visual and auditory impairment were not able to actively engage in synchronous sessions independently. Theme 2: Facilitating voice and agency. The findings revealed that the online learning environment does not lend itself to being an inclusive learning environment. Those students have engaged in direct representation to advocate for their rights and seek support in the online learning tertiary environment. Their actions have been met with some resistance which is impacting their ability to complete their tertiary level education within the desired time frame. Theme 3. Raising voice, space, and culture. The findings revealed that accommodation and modification is not systematic. Creating a culture of voice and agency is complex and complicated, as this needs to be derived from understanding the nature of impairment in relation to disability and the right to education. Conventions, physical facilities, and technology have created opportunities for online tertiary education experiences. However, the voices of students with disability has not played a significant role in shaping the education agenda. Limitations. The findings cannot be generalized, as the data collected was based on the opinions, intentions, and perceptions of a small cohort of students with visual and auditory impairments. The use of the narrative approach denies the researcher the ability to probe and seek clarification from the stories. Data was not triangulated with other research methods to increase the validity and reliability. I believe that the Raising Voices virtual community of practice will be instrumental to the reflective practice and professional development of educators, new and experienced, educational leaders, analysts, and developmental practitioners in the Caribbean region and beyond. In the prototype phase of the development of the Raising Voices community of practice, defining actions that have occurred include the hosting of a webinar which facilitated sensitization of the target audience as to the need for a community to support the learning needs of students with visual and auditory impairments. The design of online spaces where members will meet, share, and collaborate. The creation of the mission and vision statements. And the development of a communication strategy and sustainability plan. In the next 3 months, the foundation members of the Raising Voices community of practice will be working towards establishing the context and framework for the community. The foundation members will design the infrastructure to facilitate the process of practice being embedded in the community as a collective product and eventually integrated into members' work, thereby organizing the shared knowledge which will be reflected in practitioners' perspectives. In August 2021, Raising Voices will be launched with supporting actions to grow and sustain the community. RaisingVoices.ngo will be responsible for supporting the virtual community of practice. While working on my capstone project, I had an aha moment that this is just the beginning of the change process. With that in mind, the process became organic and visionary. This project has the capacity to be transformative for educators, leaders, developmental partners, and students with visual and auditory impairments. Collaborative actions have already begun, where a researcher who was informed about my initiative by a participant from the Raising Voices webinar reached out to learn more about the project. Another participants indicated that this important initiative must be sustained. And this brings us to the close. Thank you for viewing. Good evening.